Hey children of God, this is Kristi from seatedinhim.com, where we are seated in heavenly places with Jesus Christ. And tonight's message is about Saul and not being like Saul. I'm currently watching the Amazon new show called The House of David, and it is so good. They ate that thing up. It is I'm only on episode 2, but for right now it's a very good show. Yes, they took creative liberties. Yes, they kind of messing up the timeline of things a little bit, but it's a good show. And primarily right now on just episode 2, we're being introduced to David and his family, Saul and Saul's family, including Jonathan. And then we're slowly entering into what's that guy named Goliath is. And it's exciting to watch. But it's really giving me, I guess you would say, what's the word for it? I don't know what the word for it, but I guess we get to take a look at Saul as a person in a deeper way, and we get to see who he is. And I mourn for Saul. I mourn for Saul, and the reason I mourn for Saul is because I personally knew a Saul. So in the Bible, Saul was Israel's first king. The Israelites wanted a king, and God gave them one, and he anointed Saul through the prophet Samuel. And Saul was handsome. He stood a foot taller than everybody else. He was just everything that the Israelites could want, and in a lot of ways what God could want out of a king for his people. But Saul became corrupt. Saul became dependent on his own strength. And that's where we get the phrase that is often said, obedience is better than sacrifice. Saul basically lost the crown because he was unwilling to wait and be obedient on the sacrifice that needed to be done by the priest. He felt like the priests were taking too long because he was losing a battle. And he pulled and did his own sacrifice real quick to try to make Israel win instead of waiting on the that's a word right there. Instead of waiting on what God had for him, or had through his own priest, he wouldn't wait, and he lost the throne. And then that's where we get King David from. And I mourn for Saul. I weep for Saul because I know Saul, and I was Samuel to this person Saul. I was Samuel. I have a slight prophetic gift, and maybe I shouldn't slight it. Maybe I shouldn't downplay what God has given to me. But I can hear for people, especially if I care for you. I can hear for you real easy. And I knew a Saul. I could hear for this person, and just like how Samuel loved Saul, and it hurt Saul's heart when God it hurt Samuel's heart when God declared that Saul would no longer be king, because he loved Saul. And I loved Saul. I loved Saul because I saw God in Saul. I saw God in this person that I'm calling Saul. And I was Samuel to this person Saul. I was preaching, I was prophesying, I was praying for them, I was interceding for them. And I just knew that based on what I saw in them and what they had physically going on, that God had chosen them for greatness. I mean, and I knew it. I mean, it was written in the stars. They were chosen for greatness. And then this person pulled a Saul and lost the kingdom. Lost the kingdom, lost what God had for this particular person. And people ask, like, can you lose what God has for you? Yes, because God respects free will. God can show you something. God can show you how to get something. But if you don't follow his path on how to do it, you have free will, and you can lose out on what God has for you. And the reason that this person lost out for what God had for them was because they saw what God had for them as less than. They saw the promise that God had set before them as less than what they wanted, because they wanted Sometimes God, and I've heard this before, God gives you the ingredients for a cake. He'll give you the butter, the sugar, the eggs, the flour, the milk, the water, and set it before you and tell you do your thing. God doesn't always necessarily give you something that's a cake that's already icing, frosted, decorated with a candle on top. He gives you an opportunity to build something. And this particular Saul that I knew had no patience for building something. Saul wanted an already made cake. This is somebody's word. He wanted already made cake. And he didn't want to go through the process of the butter, sugar, eggs. He wanted to go to the store and point to that cake and say, hey, this cake is what I want. I'm ready to devour this cake. Forget the ingredients that would make a cake. And Saul didn't realize, my personal person that I call Saul, didn't realize that God sees the end of a thing. He sees the beginning and the end of a thing. And he knows what work he's gonna do in a particular person, event, situation. He knows what he's going to do with something. And sometimes when we desire the cake that's already made, but if you get an opportunity to be with God creating a cake, you never know what the outcome is going to be. And sometimes the cake that you already see that's already, and I hope I'm not confusing you with this analogy, but sometimes the cake that you see that's already made is not going to taste like you want it to over time. It might spoil. It might fall on the ground. It might do something completely different from the cake that you bake. But you already saw something that was already done, and you wanted what was done, and you didn't have the patience for what was to be. And so Saul lost out. This particular person I'm calling Saul lost out. And I feel like Samuel, because I mourn for Saul. Oh, I mourn for Saul so, because I saw it. And I'm kind of giving you this message as a cautionary tale. When God wants to do a thing through you, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm multitasking, looking at my computer screen. When God wants to do a thing through you, let him do what he wants to do through you, for you, with you, to you. Don't be so excited about looking at something that's already done that you miss out on what God wants to do with and for you. Because you got to look at it like this. Saul had everything necessary to be king. He was called, he was chosen, he was anointed, he had it, and he lost it. Don't be Saul. Thank you so much for watching. You have a wonderful day or night.